I'm back, and let's see. I wanted to see about inviting, but okay, doesn't, oh, there it is. Let me see if I can do this, because like I said, I do these and tag someone. There we go. Okay, hello. So this one is, it's one of those topics that can feel sort of like 0 dark 30 to us. It's not an easy topic to talk about abuse in relationships. I think for those of us that have been in abusive relationships, especially with all the talk about, oh, there's such a victim, there's such a victim, all that. And I'm like, yeah, all of us have a victim in us, because as children, we've all been victimized in some way, shape, or form. If you've grown up in this world with the culture and the climate that's there, children should be seen and not heard. At some level, you've experienced that. So to me, the key that continues to be the key is really much like the video I just did before this, is going into ourself and healing our heart. And the only way that I've been able to work through this myself is, like many of you know, one of my all-time favorites is fuck you tapping. Because when I've had situations with different people that have really been heartbreaking for me and hurtful and enraged me, that has saved me. It's saved me to let myself rant out everything I feel. Especially if you're someone that, say you're in a relationship with someone and there's abuse that's going on, and I'm speaking of really a lot of emotional abuse. It can be physical or whatever, but we ourselves actually become addicted to those relationships because they get programmed for that. This isn't to blame ourselves and make ourselves wrong. What I find is, if we know that physiologically we actually become addicted to those patterns of abuse, it tends to take the judgment out of it, because it's like you're in it, and we're so impressionable from 0 to 8. When you're in theta brainwave, which is like that hypnotic state, which you're like the little sponge that absorbs everything, that's so foundational. So whatever you experience through that. So I wanted to share this. So I started school when I was 3. I went to preschool when I was 3 and 4 years old. I'm the youngest of 4 girls. And I think by the time my parents got to me, they're like, let's put her in preschool. Let's get moving, So I have distinct memories in my preschool of the 2 teachers that I had being not so great. And I remember the class that was, there were 2 of our classes there, and the class where the other one, the 2 women that were teachers there, I was so envious of the kids in that class, because those teachers they were younger, they were sweeter, they were kinder, they weren't punitive. And I remember thinking, oh God, I would love to be around them. And my history in the school system I grew up in is, 2nd grade was the first time. So 3 years old, 4 years old in preschool, kindergarten, 1st grade, all the way. And then in 2nd grade, I'll never forget this. I'd started school. I had a teacher, a lay teacher named Miss Kiefler. She was wonderful. And I remember being on my big wheel, driving down the street, thinking how happy I was and how relieved I was to have a teacher that was actually going to be kind to me when my history was not that. So I want to show this because I think I've showed this picture. This is me when I was 6. That's my little Catholic school uniform. And when I look at that picture, that's the year that I had that horrendous nun so many of us had. And I would tell you, in a lot of ways, I got off easy hearing what she did to other people, but she beat most of us. So, and I have one distinct memory, which if you've been in this group any length of time, you know of me having welts beaten into my hand. And when I look at that picture, I just feel such compassion. And I've sent so much compassion to that part of me, because that's where accepting abuse is learned. We learn through repetitive patterns of thoughts like, okay, this is basically how I'm supposed to be treated. Not consciously, But when you've had that pattern in place for a while in theta brainwave, when you're like this little sponge, you cannot help but have that experience in your life. But what happens is with most of us is we become adults and then we judge, get pissed, blame ourselves. Like, why did I put up with that? Why did I tolerate that? So we end up treating ourselves the way we were treated. And in my view, what I see is this is the part of us that we need to go back to heal. The part, because if you, in a current circumstance with someone that, say, is abusive to you, they treat you in an abusive way. And what I would say is notice your self-talk about that. Notice what you say to yourself about it. Do you judge yourself for it? Do you make yourself wrong? Do you go, what's wrong with me? I know better, and yet I do this anyway. Well, you might know better intellectually, but the little kid knows what it knows. The little kid knows the experience of, oh, this is how this works. This is acceptable behavior. That's the part of us, to me, that we need to go back into and heal. And as we start to heal that, and that's why I love to take a picture of yourself. Like, imagine present day, there's some circumstance with someone, and in a sense, you're tolerating the abuse. You don't know how to do it, or maybe you shut down and you just don't know what to do about it. But you stay in the relationship. It doesn't have to be intimate. It can be any relationship. Parent, sibling, boss, whatever. And then the more you do that, the more your self-esteem erodes. Well, why does your self-esteem erode? It erodes because of what we're saying to ourselves about being in that circumstance. Like, why do I tolerate this? Why do I put up this? Why do I let them talk to me this way? Why aren't I standing up for myself? Why aren't I doing more? The kid can't. The unhealed child can't. And if you start to understand that, it starts to relieve the judgment and more acceptance comes into being. So I just wanted to share that first. So I highly, highly, highly recommend you get a picture of yourself as a little kid and say, take a present day circumstance where you're like mad at yourself because you're tolerating or putting up with something, and look at that little picture of yourself as a kid and try and talk back to the kid and be like, you shouldn't put up with that. You should stand up for yourself. You should know better. You shouldn't take that. I think for most of us, we'll find it's really hard to talk to that kid in us that way. But that's actually what we're doing, just on a more unconscious level. So that's what I would say is if you can connect with the child, and when you're in even present day, and go, oh God, my kid's activated. That's why I'm accepting this behavior. That's why I feel lost and I don't know what to do. That's why I keep going back to the dry well. And the fascinating thing about this is a number of things can happen. As you start to heal this within yourself, you start to let go. I've seen this time and time again, and the weird thing is those people start to behave differently around you. It's like energetically, they know something shifted. It's sort of like they know your esteem is higher, and it's like they just can't do it. And this is not to get mad at yourself, to blame yourself, because that's blaming the child. It's to use this opportunity to go, God, my kid is so activated. My kid still goes to an apple tree for orange juice, and start to heal this part. It's just tremendously powerful. So let's tap karate chop. Even though I'm still trying to heal from this abusive relationship, I choose to acknowledge I feel this way now. Even though I might have left the relationship, but I'm still dealing with abuse from it. I choose to acknowledge these feelings now. Even though I really want to heal from this abuse, I don't want to receive this anymore. I don't want to sit here and keep taking it. I'm open to seeing this differently now. This pattern of abuse. what is so wrong with me that this keeps happening to me? That this is repeating itself in my life? I left for God's sake. I took care of myself that way. And yet still here it is. I must be doing something so wrong here. I must just be attracting this. And these are all ways that I abuse myself. Unknowingly. What if these relationships are still in my life? Because it's meant to get my attention. What if it's about attending to that wounded child in me who learned so long ago that this is what relationships are for me? And as I start to see this wounding, and send some loving kindness and acceptance to the part of me that appears to tolerate things, to still receive abuse. What if I can turn to that wounded child in me and start to heal this part of me? First and foremost, make it okay that I still get hooked in this pattern. This pattern's been in place a long time. And I want to shift it. And what if the more I see these dynamics unfolding for me, the more I can interrupt these patterns, turn to my wounded child, and send this part of me loving kindness. And what if as I do this, I do start to heal? Because I'm helping to heal this child in me who is so wounded. And then my self-esteem grows as I heal this child in me. And I start to see things differently. And so do those around me. And things really start to change for me. And then I notice I'm accepting it less and less. Freeing myself even more. Becoming more detached and indifferent. This is their stuff, not mine. And I really start to see and feel that. And that's when things really change for me. So take a breath. This would definitely be a good topic to do like a private 21 days for, where we did like group calls, because it's so epidemic for so many people. And I would even say, well, particularly in the United States and the culture that's been in place for the last few years, it's made it sort of acceptable for this behavior to be okay. Looks like that's about to change. Keeping fingers crossed. And, but it's, the key to me is that going into the self, that wounded self, and being, that's the part of me that's put up with it. That's the part of me that goes back to the dry well. That's the part of me. That child in me will sell their soul to try and get something that looks like connection, even if it's highly dysfunctional. And when we make that part of us less and less wrong and more acceptable, we do start to change, and we do start to heal, and we do start to really value ourselves more. We give to ourselves what we never got, which is that loving kindness and unconditional acceptance a little bit more each and every time. So, Marcia, you're the one that I can see is here. I think there's a few other people here, but I can't tell who you are. And thanks for being here. And then we'll see you back here tomorrow. And I'll probably do 2 tomorrow, and then, yeah, is that right? Then we'll probably be caught up. So that's it. Everyone take good care, and bye for now.